today on Online for Authors, I'm chatting with Anne Giordano, author of Love, Life, and the Ketubah. Welcome, Anne.
Thank you. Welcome.
I'm so excited to have you. I really enjoyed your book. Before we dive in, though, can you give my listeners a quick idea of what they're going to find when they open up the cover?
Well, they're going to find, first of all, an explanation of Ketubah. Many people don't know what that is, and of course, it is a Jewish marriage contract. And then they're going to find a dedication to my sister, whose Ketubah was never honored, and on which this story was somewhat based.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And let's talk a little bit more about the Ketubah, because that was a word when you and I first met. I didn't even know what it was, right? And I'm thinking, what in the world are we getting into? What exactly does a Ketubah? I mean, I realize maybe they're all a little different, but what is kind of the main thrust of a Ketubah? What is it saying when you sign this marriage contract?
In a Jewish marriage, at least back during the days when this book was written, was basically a guarantee that in the event of the husband's death or divorce, the woman would always be financially taken care of. Now, of course, nowadays they have all different kinds of ketubahs, mostly not addressing the financial part as much as the love and the commitment. They have ketubahs now for gay marriage, interfaith marriage, all types of marriages, whereas before it was restricted to the Jewish marriages alone.
All right.
They're also done on a very, very beautifully illustrated, so that they're usually displayed in the home at some point.
Oh, okay.
In this book, it is displayed.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for that, because like I said, that's a word I think that a lot of people, unless they know someone who has one hanging in their home, might never even have ever heard that word before.
Right.
So you say the idea kind of came from your sister.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I would like to know, just because having read the book now, how much of this book is really what happened and how much of it is Anne's creative license, who just kind of just took the story wherever she wanted?
Most of it is my creativity. The only similarity is that she did marry a Jewish doctor, as in the book, and they did divorce.
And everything else is you.
Never honored, right? But that's really basically it. The rest of the story, the character of the person, of the wife, is unlike her character. So really nothing else. She never had children with him, so nothing else is really.
So it just that idea of a ketubah being broken was kind of what sparked the idea of this story.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. So if Lucy, who is the main character, and then Sam are not really your sister and her husband, are they based off of anyone that you know? Like, is Lucy someone you know in your mind, or is she just completely a made-up character?
She's made up in terms of how I wish my sister had dealt with the divorce in her life, which was totally different. But I wanted this character to be shown as strong, someone who could persevere and still love.
And still love. Okay. All right. And what about Sam? Is he somebody very different, or is he someone that you know as well?
Yes, he's very different also. Yeah.
Is it? Yeah.
He always still loved her, had contact with her, And in real life,
That wasn't the way it
that
worked.
was not what happened, right?
Right. Right. When you're developing characters like that, so trying to come up with, we've got Lucy, she is a strong individual. She makes some pretty big decisions early on because she was not raised Jewish. And so she made some big decisions in her life to follow her husband and to do so by changing religions, etc. So when you are creating a character like that, how do you set about making them real? Because it could feel sometimes when characters do big things like that, it feels like contrived, like it shouldn't really happen. And yet this didn't feel that way. How do you go about trying to make your characters real like that?
I think I just imagined her life being different, and ending up in a much different way.
Right.
And in order to do that, I had to basically make everybody the opposite.
You said, okay, here's the real, and then here we're going to go the other way, right?
Right.
Absolutely. I found it interesting. You in this story, we have a lot of themes that come up. One of them is, love and marriage. One of them is divorce. One of them is infertility issues, which can be a big problem. There's people with illnesses. There's a lot of life that happens in this book. When you started writing it, did you set about to touch all of those things, or did they just kind of come in naturally?
I pretty much had an idea where I was going with it. The ending was something I had not thought about.
Okay.
Until
you got there. Yeah. Yeah. So I was going to ask you whether you were a pantser or a plotter. So it sounds like you're a little bit of both. Like you had kind of a general idea, but then in the end, were you surprised by the ending?
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I had originally intended to end it the chapter before, leaving people to just kind of
wonder,
right? But my husband said that I don't think that's a good way to end it. So I realized then that I had to tie it together somehow.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm a person that I don't mind an ending that doesn't give me all the answers, but I do like loose ends kind of tied up, at least enough that I can say, okay, from here, then I can kind of like do my own imagination or whatever. I have a real problem with the ones that leave me really hanging, where there's so much still open that I don't know where it could be. So I think he gave you some good advice there. We won't tell the ending because I like the listeners to go and read the book. But I will say that this ending was the saddest, happiest ending I have ever read. It was so sad and yet so perfect and so happy. Like, and I know that sounds crazy, guys, but it's true that it's actually sad and happy. I was both smiling and crying at the end. So you did a really good job. That was good. When you started writing, one of the things that I find difficult is knowing what genre I am writing. And I often don't know. I write my story and then I say, oh, now this must be the genre. I noticed that Amazon has you listed as a romance, and to me, it's more of a love story. Romance has this trope that yours doesn't quite follow. And so it's like, well, it's not, it's more like a love story, but it's also like contemporary family life. And then there's the idea of, is it romance? when you were writing it, did you have all of that in mind, or did you just write the story?
Well, I wanted to get the romance. I mean, how they met. I mean, it was
Right.
a very special relationship, and the fact that they were both from two different faiths
Right. Right.
was important to note that. Um, but then it became a love story.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it really became a love story. And I mean, the love just permeated throughout the book.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's one of the things that authors find difficult is the marketing aspect, and like where do you stick the book? And it's hard because they have these baskets, it's
Mhm.
romance, put it in the basket, or it's historical fiction, put it in the basket. And sometimes, and often, in fact, often the authors that I'm speaking to, their books kind of fit a lot of baskets, but not necessarily completely. And
Right.
so it is. I find that to be difficult. Have you found it difficult trying to figure out exactly where to niche it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a tough thing, that whole marketing aspect of it.
Yes.
Um, when people finish your book, other than saying, "Wow, that was a great story, Anne," what do you want them to come away with?
Well, I would hope that if they see if they're ever in a situation such as Lucy was in the book, or if they know of someone who's in that situation, that they can understand that you can get through these things,
Yeah.
and that you don't have to. Your heart doesn't have to be filled with hate. You know?
Yes. Yeah, getting through life is something that we all can do.
Yes.
And I think I liked it because Lucy did not instantaneously, she wasn't instantaneously fine. Like, she didn't just say, "Oh, okay, well, we're divorcing." But
Right.
she didn't let it ruin the rest of her life. She found a way forward.
Right.
And I think that is a very valuable lesson in that all of us can have, regardless of what situation we're in, right? That we can,
Right.
that
Right.
that that things happen and they're hard, and we can even sit for a spell with "Whew, that is
Mhm.
awful," but to be able to get up and say, "Okay, well, I'm going to keep moving.
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
going to keep moving my life forward," right? Um, there's one character that I think we're meant to dislike a lot, um, and I was wondering. So this is Sam. He remarries, and I don't like her. And how did you feel writing her? Because she was someone that I don't think we're supposed to like her,
Exactly. Yeah.
right? And so, how was that, writing a character that was so significantly different from Lucy?
Well, I had to make her a very conniving person, for one
Right,
thing, in order to even snatch him away, you know. Um, and she had a motive, she just wanted to be married to a doctor. And then once she got her hands on him, her true character came out,
right,
you know.
right,
But before that, I mean, he was enthralled with her because she was there when he needed someone.
right, right. And she knew that.
Yes,
She recognized that she had
exactly.
this, right. So conniving people can be difficult to write as well, because you need to make them convincing, and
Mhm.
not just horrible, because if they're just horrible, then they're not believable. And so we kind of see, several parts of her as well. Although I never did like her. You know, I kept wanting, and I so much wanted him to see it before he got himself all caught up in it. And yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure that's the way I was supposed to feel, right?
Oh, yeah. You were supposed to not like her.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And this is not your first book, but it is your first book aimed at adults. Is that correct?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about the other books that you've written.
Okay. I wrote 3 children's books. The first one I wrote was Spencer the Rabbit, the Magic Rabbit. And that evolved from when one of my granddaughters was very young and I would put her to bed, she'd always ask me to tell her a story. And so I would make up this story about this rabbit. And each time I'd go there, she'd ask me to tell her the story of this rabbit. Finally, my husband said, you probably should write that down because, I didn't always have the facts.
Right. And she would remember them because that's the way children are, right?
She would correct me. So that's how that book evolved. The second book, Scotty the Hero Dog, was based on an event that actually happened to me when I was kindergarten age. I used to come home and sit by the hot stove in Connecticut, and which is why you see the stove is a very old one during the time when I was in kindergarten many years ago. And Scotty would always curl up next to me and rest.
Right.
Well, this one day, my mother was going out somewhere, and she asked my father, who was resting, because I think he worked at night at that time, so he was asleep, to be sure to turn off the beans that were on the stove. And of course, he muttered yes, and being half asleep. And of course, the beans started burning, and Scotty woke up. Nothing woke me up. Scotty ran to the bedroom and tugged at my dad's blanket until he got up and took care of the situation. So that's how that one evolved. Frosty the Hero Dog, again, was based on the story of my husband and a friend of ours who came to get some lettuce because he was quite a planter and had lots of vegetables. So he scooped up a bunch of lettuce and put them in this bag, and she gets home and puts the lettuce in the refrigerator, and that's the end of that. Well, the next day she goes to get the lettuce out, and there's this frog who obviously was embedded in that lettuce, and he's yellow at this point because he's been in the refrigerator. So she, of course, lets him out, and immediately as he gets out into the sunlight, he turns back to his green color. Now, each of these books, Scotty and Frosty, both have comprehension activities at the end for children to just check their comprehension, right, something that they would do in school when reading something. And so those activities are enjoyable, but for kids too. Yeah.
That's fantastic, especially in today's world where we know that reading comprehension is something that our children are struggling with.
Yes.
Since COVID in particular, reading scores have declined a lot. And I know that there are a lot of people very concerned about that. So having that ability for kids to kind of check and see, did you really understand what was happening in this story? I think that's fabulous. You probably did that, though, because you were an educator your whole life, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you knew that was necessary.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Which is why it's not surprising that you would start with a children's story. Moving from children's stories to a story for an adult, was that a difficult transition?
It was more difficult in that setting the timelines on all of this, getting those straight.
Right.
When they were born, when they were married, when they were divorced, and not getting all this confused along with the facts of what was going on at that time,
right?
The environment at that time. That was most difficult. You didn't have to do that with the children's books. You didn't have to worry about that.
Right. Right. That is true. So did you keep a written timeline? Did you like to have like some people put it up on the wall, some people put it in a notebook? How did you handle the
Yeah,
timeline thing?
I had sticky notes all over
Because
the
yeah.
place.
A
Yeah,
lot of people do that and they'll take pictures of this, this wall and the sticky notes and all the things all over it. I tend to keep mine down in a notebook and what's funny is especially as I'm starting, because I'm very much a pantser, and I'll write a few things down and then I have to add things. And so I've got like arrows. And so my first page is terrible. And then I have to go back and rewrite all of that because I have all of this stuff it's
yeah,
sideways and it's scribbled and it's crazy. So
mhm, yeah.
um, yeah, I like that idea of the sticky notes. My problem is in this environment, I put sticky notes on the wall and I come back in the morning and they're all down.
Oh,
And so I would have to do something a little more permanent because
right.
I wouldn't be able to handle that. Come in the morning and find my entire timeline is laying down on the ground. That would be
Mhm.
horrible. Um, well, Anne, if people wanted to follow you, I think the best place to do that is on your Facebook page. Is that correct?
Correct. Mhm.
Okay, so guys, I will have that in the show notes so that you'll be able to follow Anne, be able to find Love, Life, and the Ketubah, also be able to find her children's books. They're still available, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic. So all of that is available. I highly recommend that you run out and grab yourself a copy of Love, Life, and the Ketubah. And then when you're done reading it, please, please, please provide an Amazon review because it is so important to authors that we get reviews, and it's very difficult. It's very difficult. People believe they're going to, and then they forget. So don't forget.
Mhm.
Make sure that you run out and do that. And Anne, I want to thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I enjoyed speaking with you and talking about the book.
And I enjoyed having you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Online for Authors, where I, Terry M. Brown, author of character-driven fiction and host of the podcast, introduce readers to characters they'd love to invite to lunch. Tune in next Tuesday for another podcast episode.